Hey, folks, welcome back to Printavo Print Hustlers Podcast. Excited to have you. We've got a really cool episode. Farag, what was your top big thing here?
I think that his boat is much nicer than Justin Lawrence's boat from Oklahoma Shirt Company. That was probably the coolest part. But beyond that, graphic disorder on Instagram, car shop. Artwork takes an insane amount of time, but it's so freaking insane what they do, and that's their niche. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just a pretty awesome episode. What about yourself?
This is Brandt at Graphic Disorder. He posted something about bottlenecks on a Facebook group, and I screenshotted it, sent it to Farag. I was like, this is a really cool aspect because he's like just talking about how he's always solving for bottlenecks. So in this episode, we're talking through the art bottleneck. We're talking through production bottleneck, hiring bottleneck, getting started and getting out of your own way bottleneck. So those are really cool. And just niching. Right. It's one thing to talk about niching, but this is the definition of niching the business into a customer base. I mean, they are vast majority, 80-90% of sales is just these like cars and custom auto type of customers. Really, really cool. Check it out at Graphic Disorder.
I think the other part that you'll hear about is he has a 4-month waiting list for art. Insane.
Yes. Which, he was like, I don't want it to get too long. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And Nick Wood's probably going to call him in like 5 minutes, but we should probably talk about our sponsors.
All right. First up, GraphX Source. If you guys need a solution to help improve efficiency and or reduce costs in your art department, check out GraphX Source. They offer industry-leading outsourcing options to help your shop truly become a part of your team. They're plug and play with Printavo and other shop management softwares too, to be able to do things like Seps, mockups, creative art, order management, digitizing, all that really good stuff. They've been doing it for over 30 years too. So mention Printavo Pod. That'll get you 50% off your first vector, Sep, or embroidery order.
I think they have over 200 shops that are on Printavo is what I heard. That could just be a myth, but super awesome, and we use them all the time. And while you're at it, if you need, you shouldn't spend all day cleaning dirty screens. EasyWay's line of environmentally conscious chemicals will get the job done faster, more efficiently, and cost you a fraction of the cost per screen. Canvas ink, we use 701 and 842. I believe Matt Marcotte's favorite is 701 and with the cherry flavored, and helps us every single day. EasyWay has environmentally friendly chemicals to help reclaim, run efficiently. Excuse me. If you value a company to help you with how-tos, best practices, and questions, EasyWay is there. Give them a go. Thanks so much, Alex and the team at EasyWay.
Yeah, they've got over 100 distributors, which I didn't know in the States. So a lot of access there, and they're great to be able to reach out and help you out. Multicraft Daddy is working on something really cool. If you're in the Midwest, they've got something that they're building out in the Chicago area.
Did you just leak it again?
Made Lab? Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
Did you leak it?
It's coming in a couple months.
I'm trying to get the naming rights to it. I've said Daddy Shack said that doesn't work in 2023. If you've got a good name for whatever this surprise center is that Multicraft Daddy is building, message us in because I think he needs some help naming it. But Multicraft screen printing and digital supplies for over 50 years has been providing you with top brands at competitive prices. Mention the Printavo podcast and receive an extra 10% off your first order. We're excited to see what they're at, and follow them on Instagram. Give them a like and follow. Bruce, Supercolor is up to some super new cool things. Do you want to talk a little bit about what they're doing?
Rumor has it they may have a really cool upgraded version of their transfers that solve and improve a lot of things that they've been doing with the transfers and make them awesome to work with. So I know they sent us some samples. Excited to see those and try it. But yeah, look forward to that. It's coming very soon. And I know they're talking about it. And literally, we're going to see them in a week and a half. But also check out supercolor.com/print hustlers. And that's going to get you a really cool guide to help you with best practices around high color count designs, gradients, hard to print locations, pricing, best quality heat presses, just all that stuff in this guide. And so you could download it. It's a PDF guide, take it on the plane when you're flying over to Long Beach and check it out. Supercolor.com/print hustlers, or link is in the description below.
Bruce, I have one request before we get to the show. Okay. I think you flattered us with how many listens we had in the last year. I think it was like 400,000 listens on YouTube and maybe 60,000 or something like that on audio.
Yeah.
If everyone can go like subscribe on YouTube, that would be awesome. We would really, really appreciate it. Comment, send us messages, because this is getting fun. And it's fun to hear. I've gotten a bunch of DMs in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Do it.
No, it is super fun. Thank you so much for listening. It's 500,000 or so.
We won't let it get to Bruce's head. So
yeah, we've got some cool messages. Like, thanks for joining and listening and all that stuff. So we like doing it. And send us other ideas, guests, all that kind of cool stuff. Things you want to learn about, because we can reach out to whoever and drag them on the show.
Totally. All right, let's get to it.
How's your new year been?
It's good. Kicking off all right,
Did you make any resolutions?
Not really. It seems like I never have time to think about that. I probably should.
That's fair. We were trying to think about ours. I've never set goals, though. I read this one blog post a long time ago that was talking about just more of focusing on the, next month or so, instead of these long-term goals, which you hit the goal and then you start again. I don't know. The thought was just that it's just a continuous improvement involvement instead of like steps like goals would be. But
right.
I do see others that find more success with goals. Did you set any, Farag?
Did I set goals? Sort of. I don't know. I just kind of set like, what's my theme for the next 6 months? My theme is stability.
Stability. I think we're all looking for that after COVID, right?
No, I mean, like, I don't want to move around as much. I want to try and just get routines. I think like I travel so much, and I really want to stay put a little bit more than normal. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Stability.
Sorry, Brandt. I cut you off too.
Oh,
yeah, what were you going to say, Brandt? What are your resolutions?
I don't really have any resolutions necessarily. I probably should, is what I said. I have some things in mind, but I don't necessarily like say I need to have this by X, Y, Z. I kind of look for.
Okay, question. When you turn the corner on the year of the business, do you start to think of like, we've got to do this in the new year? Like, do you have those kind of eye-opening, aha, I'm doing?
Yeah.
Tell us
like
about
longer,
those.
like bigger picture stuff. I don't really look at the macro so much like, we need more screen print cards or something like that. More like, the building isn't big enough, or, we really need an auto reclaim, or just things like that, that are kind of like, not impulse buys, that you kind of got to think about for a second, make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time type, thing.
Yeah. Just quick intro, Brandt, founder, owner of Graphic Disorder, based in Johnson City, Tennessee. Is that anywhere near Nashville? You have to excuse my ignorance here.
No, we're like 4 hours roughly from Nashville.
Okay. Johnson City, Tennessee. You guys
Far East Tennessee.
Far East Tennessee, we'll just call that what it is. Yep. Screen printing, embroidery, offset printing, stickers. Is that all in-house?
The offset printing's not, but the rest of it is.
Cool. And if you go to the website, Farag, or you click on, just go to at Graphic Disorder. Yeah. Really cool art. It seems like the niche is like the like
race car, custom scene,
race car
scene.
Yeah, exactly. And which is funny because we were trying to get some art like this for.
Is that your Centurion boat?
Yes.
It's nicer than Justin Lawrence's. Justin, if you're listening to this, Brandt's boat kicks your boat's ass.
Yeah, we added that one last year.
My worst purchase in the last year was a boat.
It's the best and worst, right?
Okay, so let's this Instagram is awesome. Who's doing all of this art? Do you have an in-house team that's doing this? Like,
in-house,
this is,
yeah, we're all in-house on our artwork. We have 3 full-time artists, 2 doing the super high-end stuff, and then we have another guy that does, I don't know, the more basic, general T-shirt design, general business card, general flyer, sticker design, stuff like that. But characters and vehicle drawings and all that stuff, we have 2 artists that are full-time, just literally drawing on a Wacom all day long. 8 hours a day.
They're talented.
wow. So I noticed that your Instagram is very focused on cars. I imagine you print for other companies outside of just cars or that kind of industry.
But it's very small for us. It's very small for us. Like, it's all cars almost. It's, for us to do like a 1-color church artwork T-shirt, white ink on a black shirt is like probably once a month or something. It's super not happening in here. And it's not because we don't want it to. It's just I just don't think people think about us for that kind of stuff.
So you've niched into this like hard.
Yeah, I would say the average job here is probably a 6-10, 6-color front, 10-color back. And then it goes up to as much as we've done 12, 13 color jobs on both sides before. I mean, so that most of our stuff is that.
Do you have a digital squeegee yet?
No, we don't. If we can be honest, I didn't love the samples I got. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's going to get there. We sent them some of our art, and Michelle's great at M&R, so I'm not trashing or nothing like that. And I'm in M&R. My shop's all blue, so I'm all M&R. But they just didn't. They still feel DTG too much to me. I think certain customers will hate that. Especially customers that are, if they got a 288 piece screen print order and then, a month later say, hey, I need 24, and we throw them down a digital squeegee. I don't think they'd be happy personally. I think it's going to get there. And it gets better all the time. I mean, we see this, DTG improving all the time. So that's just going to translate straight to the digital squeegee as well. I don't know. It's coming. I think the price is still way up there. And, for me, when I first was looking at it, they were saying they were using 2 and 3 screens. So you could save, for me, that's, maybe I say 7 screens on a 10-color job, maybe per side in a lot of cases. But now they're saying it's 4 and 5 screens. And I'm starting to like, how many screens am I really saving? You got the, bleed blocker, you got the top coat, you got, and I'm just, like, it's still probably a great thing over the long haul, but the ROA gets smaller, right? Or gets longer, I should say. So I don't know. For me, I'm looking at it all the time, but I'm not ready yet.
How do you charge for art, Brandt?
We're like a flat rate, but it's a flat quote out front. So like somebody will tell me what they're looking for, and I kind of nail them down sort of specifically. We don't just say, hey, make me a car shirt. Now we want to know what car. If it's supposed to be after a real car, we want to see the real car. Mm-hmm. If we're putting a character on it, we want to see the character, the person that we're going to draw. And any background detail, we want to know. Or you want a flag, you want a certain business in the background, you want a street, what do you want? And we lock that down with a quote, and it's a flat rate at that point. So, and we draw it till they're happy, but we don't, we're not going to let you turn that into a 10-year project or something, but we're pretty loose with it.
Dealing with the back and forth. I mean, some of these are like really intricate, like if you can pop up, Chris, this, scrap in the Rockies, there's like casino slots in the background. There's like, boxes in the truck and gold and all this stuff. So like, is this something the customer is saying, or do you sketch black and white, show it to them, outline?
No, we don't sketch it black or white or nothing. We do it in house. We don't show it to them. So they'll give us those general, highlights of what they must have in a design. Some designs they want the year to be, like if it's a 20th anniversary or, it's some big deal for them, those things are highlighted bigger than others. But generally it's just a few bullet points, the specific vehicle they want. And we draw it that way. And, we hit, we nail it. Probably 90% of the time on the first proof. We're car guys. So, we understand we are the customer, honestly, because we go to a lot of these car shows, these truck shows. And, so we understand their market probably better than they do. So a lot of times it's pretty straightforward for us to, to understand where their event is and what they're looking for and what their audience is. And we can nail it just off a few bullet points. And honestly, if a customer's efficient, it's probably 2 or 3 emails to do a job like that.
So Brandt, like, you've obviously gotten really good at this, because when I look at something this technical from the artwork standpoint and the printing standpoint, right? Like, I just see this would destroy me.
The Seps are killer. The Seps are killer. So like, even when you do the art, people don't understand. Good Lord, you are going to have sometimes hours in the Seps, depending on the Sep. So, and what's crazy is our artists are so busy doing art, they cannot do the Seps. Like, it's impossible for my artists to stop and do Seps. So Shelly here, my fiance, does all the Seps after the art's done. So it's, she's spending time after time's been spent. You know what I mean? So it's hard to beat that to a customer sometimes. Like, hey, like, there's a lot of work after the art.
Yeah, I was even going to say, like, how long from start to finish does art and Sep take to do something like that? Like, that's not something, sorry, you can't just like send that to Fiverr and say, hey, do it.
Well, believe it or not, art like that, Scraping the Rockies art there, that's probably a 2-day project for us. And that's probably not even 2 days, really. It's just 2 artists a day each, maybe, so it might happen on the same day, but it's, 2 days worth of work. And then, Seps for something like that, it could be, that she hasn't Sep that one yet, but I bet you she'll spend, 3 or 4 hours Sepping it sometimes, not always, sometimes she blows right through them. It's no big deal, but there's some that fight us a little bit, and she'll, she's a perfectionist. So she wants it to look great on press, and she used to be our printer. So she understands, everybody here, not just her, but our artists included, have all been on press before. So they understand soup to nuts what the whole process is, screens all the way through printing, so they get it. And I think that helps our team a lot. They've seen things that we've done in art before. They're like, that didn't really translate that well in print, or vice versa. Hey, we did this technique, this a little different this time. It works really well on press. Let's do that, And
so you might have like 10 to 15 hours in art and pre-press before you even burn a screen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you very well could in some of those cases.
So how do you, do you just charge a lot for, because I think about the 288 pieces, how do you figure that out?
Well, so like that artwork right there, that's $650. You charge $650 for that. And that's probably low.
Just for the art.
Just for the art. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So the customer,
and we build that up front. So
a
customer, customer's going to pay that regardless. We look at art and print as completely separate, even though they end up being together. They're completely separate for us. We don't really talk about cost of printing something until there's art. So, and that's hard for the customer, especially because the other end of that art story is that we're booking late May on art like that right now. So you come to me today and you want that artwork, it's May. It's late May. So a customer will prepay me today for that line in May. And that's the way we do it. And anybody that's not serious about it, they won't want to pay, and they'll go somewhere else. And that is absolutely fine. Because we obviously should be charging more to decrease that line, but it is what it is. We're trying to reduce it all the time, but it's tough.
Brandt, so you are pre-booking art 4 months in advance.
Yeah. Sometimes 6. It gets as long as 6.
Okay, are you the guy for this type of work? I mean, I see on your Instagram you've almost got 30,000 followers. Obviously, the art, you're super niched into this space. You could probably do volume. You could actually handle it, whereas others, may say they can and can't deliver as to the shirt actually looking like the. Farag, scroll down to the one called the Shack, and you can see one is the art and one is the actual shirt coming out. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, look at the little purples on the edge and everything. Chris, hope you got to pop this up on the screen here. But so like, are you the guy, or like, who do you compete with?
I mean, we have some competitors, and we have a couple that are in the wheelhouse of our level. But I think we're at the top end of it. I would never say we're the best at it. I think there's always somebody better. But we're up there, and I personally think at least 2 of our artists are probably some of the best automotive illustrators in the world. I believe that.
How did you find them? Were these like from your network? Have you recruited these people in?
One's my best
You
friend.
don't have sick. So you guys are car guys. Yeah, you are your own customer.
We're literally
That's why
I mean, yep. Yeah, me and my first artist that I hired was he actually taught me Photoshop before I ever created a company. So many years ago, it was probably around 2000, 2001. He kind of showed me like the basics of Photoshop and how to use Photoshop. And I started doing vehicle renderings, which were much worse than what he's doing now. And of course, he didn't know how to do that kind of stuff either at that point. And I did that for a business for a little while, and that kind of grew us to what we are now. But when my first hire was him. And we hired him to help print and do art. And we bought a nice Wacom and put him on a $10,000 computer and turned him loose. And that's where he's at now. And then we had our second, Kelly, who's doing the same kind of art as Eric. And she does our characters too. So any kind of really wild background characters, pinup girls, anything related to that kind of stuff. She does it all. And she used to do everything just by hand in like a little sketchbook. And she's talented enough to work at Disney. I'm just being honest with you. She can draw, I asked her to draw me four pinups one time, or a pinup one time, I should say, at like 4:30 one day. This was right when we built her a computer, just put her in their office. She hadn't really done anything for us yet. Sat down, turned the computer on. It's 4:30. I'm like, hey, draw me a pinup. She draws me 4 in 30 minutes. And they were all impeccable. Like they were just amazing. And
you got the art dream team.
Yeah, we do. And we've learned to print it too. So, so it's, I always think that we're always learning to be better printers and we're always learning to be better artists, but I think we do both really well.
Wow. So you might have one of the most talented art departments in the country.
For certain things, I think so. There's certain stuff I'm sure that there's better people for it, but we're really good at, we can draw you monsters. We can draw you, Halloween characters. It's just really anything. Her characters are amazing.
So Brandt, Bruce sent me a screenshot actually of like, you were talking about bottlenecks. Like, I don't know if you know this, we saw it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that might be. And it sounds, and you were reflecting on the year. I think there's the exact post. Have you thought about how to solve this art problem? Like, I don't even want to call it a problem. How to lean into the strength that you guys, you guys have.
Yeah, we're one step on that already because like the same way that we found Kelly, our second artist, she came to an open house. We have an open house once a year. And she came in here and she was working at like Target or something and getting, 4 hours a week. And she's got all this art talent, but we didn't have a need for art at that time. This is years ago. And she's like, how do I, I've got an art degree and how do I come, I'm in Johnson City. Where do I go to do art? I'm like, well, we could put you to work in the screen print department for a little while. Maybe we can do some art with you later, And that's what we did. Well, a couple of years later, the same thing just happened again. We had another girl come in here. She's now in our screen department, but also has a lot of talent with art. And we just, on Friday, set her down in front of a Wacom for the first time. And she's good. She's going to just rough around the edges. It's just going to take some time. But so she'll do screens for a little while and learn the pre-press side. And then we'll probably put her on press, let her learn how to do actual printing. And then we'll stick her in an office and let her draw. So, it's probably happening slower than I'd like, because I think I hate the line. The line we have for art is too long, in my opinion. So we want to reduce it, but I just don't want to throw, 50 artists in the building and then, get 2 that are really good and the rest are crap or something. We're going to critique it as we go, I guess I'd say,
Can we be vulnerable about like outsourcing art for a second, right? So like at Campus Inc., we use outsource art solutions quite a bit, right? Like, and there's a certain need for that, and there's a certain niche that they fix. In this instance, that's not necessarily an outsourced solution. Have you ever tried to find artists around the world that specialize in this type of art that you can really like zero in on? And yeah,
I know most of them, and the ones that are doing it to this level are either doing their own business or they're in another shop most of the time. And I don't want to go off and poach, or type thing.
Right.
I would if it came to the point where they said they were looking to leave somewhere or something like that. I might entertain it type thing, but I'm not the type to go off and contact somebody and say, hey man, you want to leave that shop and come work for us? We need the help or something.
There's no 99 designs for car people that you can just be like, hey, I've got this many jobs. How quickly can everyone do them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some guys out there that could probably do that, but I've never ran across them. And personally, you know, having somebody in house that's a car person, not just somebody that's just an art. There's kind of a difference. There's people that do art, right, and they can draw anything you tell them, but they're also, if they're not in the niche they're drawing for, it's going to be a little bit disconnected. You know, maybe not all the way, but a little bit disconnected. So I think our win is that we're very connected to the situation. And I think that's why it turns out so good. So in my mind, they kind of need to be here in the building. And I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't do an outsource situation if it just becomes bonkers and it's just unhandleable. You know, there's no option. You know, I might entertain it, you know.
What about the Seps side?
Seps, we're getting to the point where we're going to have to do something. Whether we're going to have to hire somebody specifically just to do Seps, or maybe outsource Seps. I don't know. I've just never loved outsourcing stuff because you get, you know, a lot of stuff we get it on press. We find, you know, we should have set up the black differently, or we should have, you know, the red's not hitting right, you know, and we'll fix that in real time, you know, like, boom, nope. We got a CTS, we got, you know, Unico. We can do all kinds of things very fast here. You know, so when you start, now you got to have somebody fix the Seps or whatever it might be, or you're trying to fix somebody else's Seps. They do them different than you, you know, it gets a little muddy, you know, probably perfect scenario out there, I'm sure, but I don't know if I have the bandwidth to hunt that right now. I think more long-term solution would be find somebody to bring in-house to do Seps for us, and get that off Shelley's plate.
The level of technicalness is just intense. I mean, you need a separator sitting next to the screen burner.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that we like, you know, our press operator, you know, they'll send a proof to us every time they print the first test proof, and it goes right to Shelley, who does the Seps, who's in the channel with the artist. So the artist can say, hey, that doesn't look right, or hey, you know, Shelley can be like, I messed up the Seps, let me fix this, or, you know, hey, that looks perfect, whatever it might be. And I like that dialogue. Not that you can't have that remotely. I just think it adds another layer of, hey, he's in the bathroom right now, we didn't know that, he's not answering, you know, you know, type thing like that. So I don't know. We'll keep evaluating at all times. You know, reality is we've probably always grown more organically than more like foot on the gas type thing. And I think that's natural. And we don't experience, you know, when the economy gets rough, we don't have a lot of rough times. We own our equipment. We nearly own our building. Like, we're in good shape because of all that, instead of just like going as fast you can. And then you run into this like client that's huge and they leave because of whatever, the economy tanks or whatever it might be. You know, I'm scared of that all the times.
You know, there's I remember Stephen back at school at University of Illinois, I took this business consulting class, and they talked about Boeing, the company making planes, and they were basically saying that they were always trying to outsource as much as possible to manage less and less in-house. And in the plane, or on a plane, the wing is sort of like the heart of the plane. It's like mathematically has to be perfect so that, you know, the air goes over it and under it and so on, so it has good lift. And, you know, all plane manufacturers always manufacture their own wings, but the Boeing wanted to try to not only outsource like all the electronics and you know, all the metal and seats and all that stuff, but also they tried to outsource the wing, and it was a complete disaster because things weren't done correctly to the sort of the core and the heart of the business, which was the wing for them, which absolutely seems like that whole flow for you guys, especially just looking at some of the social, you know, accounts and what you've done in this niche with, you know, art and cars, and especially with your passion, it sounds like, for it. So, yeah, I mean, that makes total sense to try to keep as much in-house, but it just reminded me of that whole story with like keeping that core principle inside and then trying to get rid of the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say we have it perfect. You know, I think there's probably things we could send out and it might be the better way to do it. Certainly maybe short term, you know, as you bridge gaps type thing. And I should probably be more open to that, but I've always kind of like you know, I'm hard-headed. I get stuck in doing things a certain way, and it's working. I'm not saying it's the most optimal, but it is working.
You obsess over the right things and innovate based on necessity, right? And it's like we could tell right from your Instagram, this is your obsession. Yes. That's why people will go to you. I'm curious to know, like, having a business around your obsession. I'm just going to say for a second, you're obsessed with cars. I think so, maybe.
I am. Yes,
and having
absolutely.
a team about it. I've seen companies go into their obsessions and lose money trying to do cool things because it's their passion, right? And I've seen companies also learn how to run really profitably and make really good money because their obsession. I'm curious if there was a moment in your business where you had to be like, okay, the stuff we're doing is so freaking cool, but we cannot be giving it away like this just because we're all car guys. I'm curious to know, like, did you think about that at any point? Did you have low points of like, shoot, we're giving this away?
Yeah. Yeah, well, when we were, when it was just me and Shelly, we were, had a manual press and a couple of embroidery machines, like, nothing special, and I was doing art. And then when I wasn't doing art, I was printing. And when I wasn't doing printing, I was embroidering, so it was, and so those things we were running ourselves dry, like as far as burning both ends of the clock, you're out of juice. It is your passion, but at the same time, you can't go enjoy the passion because you're so buried in like doing this stuff for the industry, and it got to the point where I had to hire, and I see that with a lot of shops. They get, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're scared to hire more. They're scared to put in an auto, and they're scared to break those bottlenecks, to get to that next level where you can kind of dialed in on your passion without maybe being the guy doing everything. Where if you're trying to wear all those hats, it's going to burn you out eventually. And we were close, we were really close to that a few times, where it was just like, I mean, even though the money was okay, because we didn't have all this overhead, but it was just, it was rough. I mean, we were, 12, 14 hour days, all the time, it just kicks your butt.
I think about sometimes I'm trying to work on my team. So we get to work with a lot of really cool athletes, famous people, great names. And if you worry so much about like what their name is or who they're doing, and you start saying, well, we'll just do it for this person or we'll just do it for them. But it's LeBron James, we'll do, and it'll just eat you alive. And so I think there's a point in a business that every owner has to say, I don't care if I'm printing for the Little League or if I'm printing for the Daytona 500. I have to put my own, I have to make sure that I can eat first.
I 100% agree with that, because I think if you treat everybody with that high level, right, whether it's your 24-piece client or your 5,000-piece client, the result is amazing for everybody, right? And you're not saying, like you just said, oh, I did this extra for so and so. No, your price is your price, and your quality is your quality. It's the same, throughout, because that 24-piece order might net you some referral that LeBron James may not, right? So you always got to treat them the same, in my opinion.
Wait, what was your shift, Brandt, though? Like in you being with your partner as the sole owners to like, we need to create more of an organization here.
It was just we were trying to do too much. We're 7 days a week. And it was just like I said, 12, 14, 16-hour days. It was just a point where it was like we either have to quit or we have to hire, and we knew we had to hire the right person because, it's such a, and I don't want to call it a family thing because it's just, it was me and her or whatever, but it was so close to our hearts that we wanted to make sure we hired the right person. So we wanted to hire, my buddy Eric, and because I knew he. But
like, do you remember, like, was there a moment where like, there's some times where I feel like I've called, Farag to be like, dude, something has to change here, or something like. Was there a time where you guys sat down, or was there a job that went sideways, or like, what was it, or was it just
It was the volume. It was just the volume. It was literally just the volume for us because we were still small, so we weren't doing these huge orders, But I mean, we might be doing 1,000-piece order, which was a lot for us back then, But it was just, man, it's just there's too much work for two people, at the end of the day, and it was like either we need to get real jobs or we got to get some help in here, and we wanted to hire help that we knew had a ceiling for more than what we were offering already. In his case, it was art. We didn't want to just hire a laborer. I didn't want just somebody catching shirts at the back of the dryer. I want somebody to bring something to the table. So that's why we hired him. I mean, and that's sort of almost every person we've hired here has been that way. We've always looked at them as, maybe we're hiring them for this right now, but we really want to do this with them in a year or 2 years or something, so that's always been our approach.
If you would have went back, when would you have done it? Like, was it a revenue marker that you hit? Like, was it $500,000 in sales, or what? Like, what?
We hired at 300,000. We were doing 300,000 when we hired, and in my opinion, we should have hired probably at least by 200,000. Because we just killing ourselves at the end.
What
there.
role?
We were doing. Our artist is what we hired.
Got it.
Of course, he was helping us in printing too. So, he came from the offset world, so he was familiar with printing a little bit, but he was more art talented. So, but running a screen print press is easy compared to offset press sometimes, it's just, for us, we probably should have done it sooner. I don't know, a year or two sooner or something like that. And I probably would have never bought a manual if I would have started over. I'll just be honest with you. I would have tried to go straight for an auto.
Not the first person that said that.
I just, to me, it's when you think about the wasted time we put in, and again, our first press was like an eBay manual. So maybe do that like we did, but not, then we went to like a nice manual, went to like a Vastex or something. And, I almost think skip that intermediate step. You try the manual from like eBay, the $1,500 or whatever. Hey, I can do this, right? I can make money on this. I can make this work. Skip to the auto, and save all that time,
Brent, when you say I should have hired sooner, I have a little bit of a story, Bruce. But I used to paint houses in college, and they would always teach us, put down the paintbrush and go knock on doors. You can hire a $15 an hour employee to paint the house, or you can go get 10 new leads in an hour that'll generate you $2,000 in sales.
Yep.
And so they would always say, they would always teach us, put down the paintbrush and go knock on doors and hire someone to paint for you.
There you go.
Because when you look at operations in a business that can be done by a $15 or $20, maybe even $30 an hour an employee, and then you look at what a CEO or an owner of the company can do. An owner can generate new business, grow the business, get one more customer, and they would literally calculate it and say, look, if you spent the same exact time, you can add 10x more value. Your hour is worth $100 an hour instead of 15 or 20 bucks an hour picking up that paintbrush. And that's a really hard thing for business owners to think about.
For us, it was like that with the auto. Like when we bought the auto, we were still just a 2-person company. And even M&R was like, you're probably not ready to buy an auto, And I'm like, but it's going to save me all this time. And I had that same concept in my head. Well, if I can save this time printing, now I can go get more leads, right? I can answer more emails. I can generate more sales, which will eventually get me to the point where I can hire people. And that was where I was at, which, but I'm sure on their ROI calculator, like me buying an auto was a terrible idea,
Well, do you ever think about a piece of equipment? Because we're talking about these bottlenecks again. Do you ever think about a piece of equipment like as an hourly rate of an employee? Like, hey, if I buy that Unicoat, it's $18,000 and that's $11 an hour for a year.
There you go.
Do you think about it like that, or
I don't look at it like an hourly rate so much, but I always think about it in the terms of like a job. Like if I get a CTS, how much of somebody's day did I just save? Not necessarily by the hour, like hourly rate or whatever. And I do that math once in a while, but mostly I just think, hey, if you get a CTS, this guy saves, 35% of his day, whatever it might be, he can do something else for that amount of time, and that's how I look at stuff like that.
Bruce,
it's like, what do we get back?
Yeah, Bruce, I'm curious for you because I saw you hire your first employee at Printavo all the way to where you're at now. When was it for you that the business really started to rock? Like, what was the clip, employees, revenue? I'm just curious, like early days, because you were doing everything and answering support tickets on your lunch break.
I was the exact person you guys are talking about, which is like, no, it's fine. And I think just being a first-time business owner, that's the naivety that we have. Like, if you guys started over again, I feel like you'd hire someone within 2 months, if not less. You know what I mean? And it's like before, it's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'll just do it. The amount of times I've told, and other team members have seen me, and I'll just say, I'll just do it. And they're like, okay, I guess we have somebody to learn. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, hey, look, Bruce, we need a product manager, or like, you need an assistant. Why are you ordering, computer mice on Amazon, trying to figure out if it should be battery or wired, or like what the batteries are then? And then, is this one good? Is it ergonomic? And, they're right and they see it. But anyway, I also should have done the same thing early on, but we started to really scale up when we had 4 people, each in their own department. So one person helping on engineering, one person doing sales, one person doing support, and then I can kind of hop around and add value to each of those. But that was a clear trajectory changing. But I will say, a very scary moment, and I mishired, I think, twice before I got that team of 3, just not knowing how to hire, and then having the revenue to be able to do it comfortably, right? And I think once you have the revenue, still being comfortable with hiring that person. But gosh, such a mistake. Now, Brandt, you actually talk about having duplicate roles. One thing you mentioned in this post, and this was off Rogue Printers, which is a cool group Lee Stewart's been running on, and I think maybe one of the more valuable ones that's out there right now. But basically, it was your bottleneck. We were talking about 2 people being sick, which is, I think, the next step that you encounter with a team, and then you scaling up to hiring additional people to help with that. Can you talk us through, that whole process and how you got to that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's obvious when you have somebody, when you have just enough people to do the job, and then somebody's sick, all of a sudden it's like it's crash. It's like it's bad. Nothing gets done. So it come to the point where it's just like, now me and Shelly have to go down and do these things, which means I'm not up here doing sales, or she's not up here doing Seps, which may save your day, but it doesn't save you tomorrow, because now the Seps for tomorrow aren't done, or the Seps for 2 days from now aren't done, or where they don't have, all of a sudden we didn't make any sales today. Well, Brandt was on press all day, that's not good. So it got to the point where it's like, you just can't do that. You have to have some floaters. So we call them floaters. We have a couple floaters down there where they're trained across. They can unload, they can load, they can catch the dryer, they can do shipping, they can run the Unicode, they can use the CTS, tape screens, whatever it might be. They can count, sort, whatever, so they're kind of like jack all trades, type thing. And I think the shop needs that as soon as you get to the point where you've got the revenue. You can't just overhire, but you got to have a little extra revenue. But you got, once you have it, I think you have to have at least a floater where somebody can plug in. Somebody needs to be sick, they're going to get married, they have a child, whatever it might be. You got to have, some slack there.
Yeah, but immediately I kind of thought, oh, maybe this is good for a junior role. But if they're trained in all these different areas, is that not the case? Like, is this actually more of a senior type of person that has more experience going across these different departments?
Well, I think they'll end up being that, but in the beginning they're not, because they're kind of like just, they're doing each one of those things a little bit here and there. So they're not experts at it, right? They can get through the day, or they can get through a couple of days or whatever, but they don't know everything about the machine that they're running, or they don't know all the nuances, and they've got to ask somebody or whatever. So they work their way into being a more important role by knowing how to do all those things. And the next thing maybe they're a department lead one day, or maybe, as we grow, they'll run a press of their own, or whatever it might be, we're just, I feel like we train more, as we train each person more, they become more valuable to us, and vice versa. They want to be able to help. Most employees do anyway.
Farag, do you have floaters? Like people that can jump around if folks are sick, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have a good amount of redundancy. We have a lot of people that can do a lot of things, and that's good and bad sometimes. We have enough people where a press isn't going to stop for a day.
There you go.
And
you said something there that was important. I don't think you said it without saying it. I don't think you want every person to be a floater, because there's certain people that are really good at certain things, and that's what you want them to do.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we're at, and we definitely need to work on it. What we don't have right now is the production, like the floater that knows how to keep pushing, like the snowplow floater. Like, right. Okay, are we good on that? What do we have to do faster? What do we have to do faster? The snowplow floater that is assertive, confident, helpful, team player. Let me get in and fold these faster with you. So we're looking
where they can see the bottleneck, right? They can see the bottleneck and they know,
they
hey,
literally go
we're
to
really
the
backed
bottleneck.
up in screens. Let me go in there and get the screens done. You know,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're missing is that task maturity to know, ooh, there's a big bottleneck there. All right, let's go. And I look at it like the general manager of a Chili's, you know, when they're like, shoot, everyone on the floor to bus. All right, let's all bus. Come on. So I don't know why Chili's, maybe TGI Fridays, but
big Chili's guy.
I digress. Bruce is a Red Lobster guy, but
Brandt, Red Lobster guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Brandt, it doesn't sound like you have a lot of turnover. I mean, does your team what? It seems like you have a pretty good, solid group. What do you do to keep them all happy, trained, hungry, all of those things? Because it sounds
Change
like
daily.
what it sounds like is you do have something strong there that I think a lot of printers would be envious of a little bit, and that must come back to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I think the big thing is money. We pay people a livable wage. I mean, there's a lot of shops that I hear people making $12 an hour in a press, and I can't even. I just think to myself, that is a terrible job for $12 an hour. So I think about those things. I think about them in terms would I want to do that job for that much money? So I try to pay people more than what I hear most shops pay things. Now, I wouldn't run out and say we're the highest paid shop on everything. No, probably not. But I think we treat our people well. We do some extra things every year. We give them a week off at Christmas. We pay it, that kind of stuff extra, and these things are, they help with morale. And when we see problems in the shop, they don't have enough place to put things. We make sure we have the right tools in place to make their space usable, computers everywhere, tables everywhere, carts everywhere. These things all don't make a lot of sense to some people, but they make a lot of sense to somebody's day. They're fighting for space or something, we're always trying to make sure they have what they need,
So out of the 13 people, for folks that maybe have one person, sorry, or may have 5 people, what was your sequence of hiring? Because I always see who's the first person I should hire? Who's the next person I should hire? Can you, maybe if you remember, so the first one you talk about artist, but all right, number 2 and so on, if you could just list those out.
Yeah, sure. So first was the artist, and then we hired a guy to help with screen printing. So basically what it became is that we went from a shop that could really run an auto by yourself, go down and catch the shirts by pull them out of a bucket, throw them. That became a problem, So we hired somebody to catch at that point. That was really our second hire, was somebody just to catch and then do screens and do this other, random stuff as things are, because the auto wasn't running all week long. Initially, we were running 2 or 3 days a week. And so from there it was, now we need somebody to run an embroidery machine, instead of us, so that got me and Shelly off the, wearing 100 hats. Now we're down to 50 or something, so that's, we just kept doing it like that. So every time we'd run into a bottleneck with something like that, we'd hire another person. So our next hire was another artist, but he helped in screen printing before we put him back in art. And he's our guy that does our general design stuff. He's not doing the high end art, but he does all our proofing for anything. So if a customer sends art in, he makes the proof for, make sure that we've got everything dialed. And he does business cards, flyers, stuff like that. So once it got to the point where there's too much printing or art to be done, we moved him out of printing and moved somebody else into that. So it was basically a revolving door at that point. So every point that we needed another job that was a full-time job, we pull that person out of printing and put a new person in printing. That's essentially how we did it.
It's AAA. It's like the farm league.
Yep. Yeah. In our opinion, I think everybody should, especially if they're got anything to do with art or print, they should definitely go through the printing process all the way through screens, imaging, on press,
So the problem that we are having right now is, we have people that generate revenue, and then we have people in operations, and then we have people in manufacturing. And every time you add more revenue, you have to add an ops person and, a production person. We're trying to figure out where that balance is. And so an exercise we just did is we had our ops people write out every single thing that they do. And then we isolated and filtered it down by each person's name. And then you could see glaring oh, that's where our problem is. This person's spending.
They're doing too much. Yeah,
they're spending 4 hours a day just in Shopify. All right, that's what we have to solve for. And all of a sudden, when you solve that little pain point, everyone else seems to kind of flow. It's like popping the pimple or something in your bottleneck.
Yep.
And so that's been an exercise that
It's a good way to do it.
That's been an exercise that our team has been doing, because a lot of times everyone asks, the killer question I always get is, can we hire someone for this? And I'm like, no, no, we can't. We can't. That's $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. We just can't hire for that. And so a lot of times it takes that management to step in and say, hey, here are the bottlenecks. Here's how we solve it. Here's how we outsource it. Bruce, it probably happens for you guys more and more as the business gets more intricate. I'm curious if you guys have a spot where everyone has their roles defined. Maybe.
I mean, I think, software is obviously very different than like manufacturing and running a shop. But this is one thing I pushed on very early, because I had worked at a company before where stuff wasn't defined, and I found it very frustrating. I took so much when I went full time and was like, I hate this. I love this. I hate this. I love this. And I started it like right away. But role definitions, like even if I was moving somebody, I wrote the job description out and I gave it to them, and to say, okay, here's your new like job description. This is what you're focused on doing, and this is the department that you're a part of. I don't know. It's never perfect. There's definitely some people that hop in between or in a gray area, and it's confusing for them. As maybe as an owner, I feel like it's like, dude, just jump in, just do stuff, like grab this, but that's not how the team operates, right? Like they want to have kind of railroad tracks to run on, and then they can run really fast.
Some people need planning. Some people need a better direction.
Yeah. And I think
probably.
almost, all, but yeah, I don't know. Or there's the expectations misalignment, but anyway, I'm going to go off into like a little, like, little side thing there. Okay. So what other bottlenecks do you feel like, Brandt? You talked about bag and tag in this message too. So, you talked about buying an auto folder. I'm curious, obviously, what did you buy? And then when was the good time to buy it? Like, what were you experiencing?
Should have done it a long time ago, but we didn't buy a big one yet. We bought one of those little speedy tees, which honestly is great for what it is. I mean, they were pretty cheap. And I could see myself buying 2 or 3 more of those before I go off and get one of these big, 150,000. Yeah. Like we don't have enough bag and tag that I think we could justify that just yet, and honestly, I don't love doing bag and tag. I don't know about you guys, but it just, I love seeing shirts come out of the dryer and go right in a box and get out of the building. Like I like that done and done, right? When they go over to bag and tag, it's like, oh, another day of that, like, oh man, so I don't know, but we should have done that a long time ago, because it's quite a bit faster, using one of those. So, I think I could add another 1 or 2 of those before I went off and got a full setup, like from M&R or whatever. The rock one's nice too.
Yeah, that one's $150,000 though. Like,
it's such a big number.
So I'm like, I could run 5 speedy tees next to each other.
Yes.
I just don't. Yeah. I have a speedy tee or one of those flip and folds coming. I'm trying to get rid of my Asthmatic, like whatever. Yeah. That thing is just a tank.
I've heard some of them are turds. So I don't know.
It's pretty good. It's just so big. We don't have space for it. That's our biggest problem. I mean, it moves really. It folds so fast. But it's almost like it's overkill for what
it's in the way.
Yeah. So if someone needs one, hit me up. I'll sell it to you.
Our thing's space too. Like space is killing us. Like, we're in 14,000 square feet, and we just went and put vertical racking in and added a forklift and, all those things we probably should have done a long time ago, but we finally did it. And of course that's helped, but I can only kick this can down the road a little bit longer before we're going to have to build a bigger building. Do
you think you're going to go that route, or you think you're just going to get really comfortable and cushy where you're at?
No, we have to. There's no way to. When we're ultra busy, there was no place to even put a garment in this building. Like it was like there was nothing. There was no room. Like I keep a spare vehicle in here. I had to leave it outside. Like because there's just no room.
So if you were to build another building, how big would you make it?
So we're wanting to basically double it. I can only double it on this property. I have an interesting drama here. I have the city power runs right across our property. So I have a big lot. I have almost 4-acre lot, but the problem is that main line runs right down our front yard. So basically you can only get within 60 feet of that, I think it is. And so our building is restricted by that, so we can add maybe double. We can roughly double the size of our building, and then after that, I don't know. We're gonna have to move. Like, is what it is, because there's nowhere to. The property backs up to a creek, and the next door neighbor ain't gonna sell. So
is that your goal, to get as big as possible? Is it to make as
no.
What is your goal there?
I think I'd stop maybe like 4 or 6 autos, probably. Like I just, that's, to me, that's like a manageable deal where you're not going home every day like mad. I've heard some of these big shop deals I think you get too big, and some of these guys, then they start turning to, I don't do contract printing. So a lot of these shops, they get real big, they, 30 autos, but they had to do contract printing. And then next thing you know, one of these contract printers leave and they don't have any, they don't have a need for 5 autos anymore. These jobs got to go away. And I just don't want to go through all that, not interested in doing that.
What else would you have done earlier?
CTS. I mean, that was huge for us.
Are you wax or
we're just still image, which we should have done sooner. Of course, even M&R did the same thing there. They're like, you don't got the ROI for this because you're not doing enough screens a day, back when we bought it. We bought it in 2014, I think it was. Wow. And, which was in my mind early, but I probably would have done it earlier now.
Have you thought about going laser?
The unit is getting old now, so it's like I'm starting to think laser or wax or what I should do. I've not researched either one of them enough to say I would do one or the other.
You're going to get phone calls right after this.
I'm sure.
You're going to get a call from Mark. You're going to call from Saudi. There you go.
Which is fine.
What else? What else would you have done earlier?
What else?
Man, I think I would have done everything a little earlier. I mean, literally everything. I mean, when we were in my parents' basement for a long time, and we were in there for 8 years. Shouldn't have done that. Should have moved out of there sooner. But of course, when you're in a basement that's 2,500 square feet, and you go off and you get a 14,000 square foot building, that seems like such a massive move.
Yeah,
scary. It was scary as hell because I had a Vastex manual and 2 embroidery machines in a 14,000 square foot building, 2 desks. I mean, what are you doing? All my friends thought I was stupid. I thought I was stupid even. I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm never going to use this. And now look at this place. I'm like, it's a postage stamp. I should have bought, a 70,000 square foot building.
Bruce, do you still live in your parents' basement, or did you move out this year?
Just kidding. Sometimes. I have all my kid stuff in there. It's like there's like a Jimi Hendrix poster on the wall, and like
your mom won't get rid of it.
My old furniture. It has like Disney, like. I don't know. Did you guys put like little wallpaper stuff in underneath the dresser, like in the bottom drawers? Did you ever have that or no? Do they like protect the drawers? I don't know.
Yeah, the wood.
I've seen
it doesn't
that,
splinter.
Yeah. They put that in the bottom, which I'm like, why did they ever do that? But anyway, was there anything that you would have done earlier, Stephen?
Yeah, we waited a really long time to get out of our building on that second floor. I would have at least rented and gotten out of there. We were doing it because the rent was so cheap, but it really constricted us very early on. So I would have done that. Probably would have bought out one of my partners a little sooner. That's for another day. But yeah, I think like we definitely waited too long till it got to the point where it was unbearable. And there's a lot of fatigue that comes out of those days that it's just not worth it. But early on, we owned everything, never took a loan, bought everything in cash. So
something to be said for that. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. So it got us there. It definitely got us there. And I think that's good. Those are good pillars to stand on and build a business on. So, yeah. This is good.
Yeah, Brandt, appreciate joining us. You guys can follow, what is the at Graphic Disorder? Is that the best place, or graphicdisorder.com?
Yeah, either way.
You guys got to check out this art, their shop. Really, really cool, especially if you have work you could forward over art needs. So I appreciate the time, Brandt. By the way, which of these cars is yours on here?
Any car on there is mine.
Okay.
Wait,
All right. So
how
there's a
many do
lot.
you
Real
have?
car on there's mine. Yeah.
How many do you have?
I have 5 right now, but I've
Some
been through a few.
beautifully cool like trucks.
Is the green
Porsches
Lambo
and-
yours?
That's a Porsche, but yes, it
Oh,
is mine.
Porsche.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Ferg's not a
Yep.
car guy. Neither of us. So.
I know the boat. I know you have a Mastercraft X1. Took it up to a Centurion, so I'm hanging in the boat world.
There you go.
So no, this is awesome. Oh, this is sick. Yeah, as I'm scrolling down, it's just getting better and better.
Yeah, I've had a couple Ferraris and I've had a McLaren, and I'm a car guy. I love cars.
Why get rid of the Ferrari?
They're terrible cars. They're one caught on fire.
Do you
Was that
race
its
them?
fault or was that your fault? Just to like,
It was
because I
its
feel like
fault.
you're like
I
a
wasn't even driving
racer.
it.
Oh wow!
I am
okay.
I am a racer now. Yeah, I wasn't with the Ferrari. The Ferrari would have never held up. Yeah, I love the Ferraris. By the way, they're just fragile. They're very fragile. So those are McLaren, same way. They're just fragile.
Bruce goes in the Tesla and plays the race car game, so he's a racer too.
I had a Tesla for a little while. I had a Model 3 Performance for a little while. Yeah, that's a
What
daily
did,
driver.
what did you think of that?
I don't think the world's ready for it because of the electric grid, but I love the car. Range anxiety. I couldn't use it the way you would use a car. I'm in East Tennessee, so like the closest charger outside of town was 90 miles. So if you're not going that one specific direction, actually there's a charger nowhere.
We tried driving from Indianapolis to Chicago when it was literally Christmas Day, and it was like -2 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was the worst day of our lives.
How much-
So
did you stop twice or what? Or is just
it was almost 3 times. Yeah,
oh?
it was a rough
Did you
day.
get lost a lot of range because of the cold, right?
Did you start at 100%?
Oh yeah,
Yikes!
because
They
the
lose
cars
a ton of range on that when it gets real cold.
when it gets crazy cold, your range is like nothing because the batteries got to keep the car warm. So, but cool. We could talk.
I
about
love
that.
the car though. By the way, I really did. I really
Yeah,
loved the
minus
car.
like the
It's
ceiling panels falling off occasionally, and like Bruce
I had to get
keeps
that. Mine too. I had to get that fixed.
it's a Elon feature.
It's a beta. It's a beta.
It's a
You know?
It's a
beta.
beta.
Yeah.
Good. No, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. We really, really appreciate the time, and
no problem.
I'm sure shops will be hitting you up for all the tips and tricks. But
I don't know everything, but I know something.
what you're doing is super cool, and this is an awesome conversation. So
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Printavo Print Hustlers Podcast. I'm Bruce from Printavo, Mr. Farag out of Campus Inc., and Brandt of Graphic Disorder. All right. I'll see you guys next one. Bye.